From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, November 15th. Last week I went a little bit too long, and I was just because of the first of the season. I was trying to get into the winter and down the road a little bit. I'll touch on it a little bit this video as well, but I just don't want to get as long-winded. First one usually is longer. This is going to stick between the 15 and 20 minutes like we normally do. So here is what we're looking at for our long range this week. As I get to the long-range outlook, and we have a lot of ups and downs here, and we're in the middle of one of those transitions right now. We have a cold front coming through today. It's a very powerful cold front that'll give us some chillier temperatures this week, and then we go right back to slightly above average and back down to below average and back, back and forth here. That's the whole idea as we go through at least Thanksgiving and probably beyond that. I'm going to be amending this period. Once you get further out in range here, it's a little less certain and lower probability. So I don't think it's going to be a blanket slightly above average period here. I think we're actually going to be dealing with a lot of these up and down roller coaster type patterns through the end of the year, meaning the end of 2020. So we'll have this straight through December. We'll have some periods that are going to be a little milder than average. Nothing crazy. It's still a zonal flow, but you'll have some dips in the jet stream to give you some cooler temperatures. A little bit of a ridging that gives you temperature slightly above at times, and that's going to go back and forth, I think, through the end of the year. This cold front will be moving through today. We'll have some wind with it, some squall line of sorts that are going to be taking place. It's going to be moving west to east across our region today. And there could be some pretty gusty winds with that as it moves through, but some gusty winds out ahead of it too. I think that's really the biggest concern today is the windy conditions that you're going to be seeing even ahead of that line. With the squall line itself, you get some wind gusts around 45 or so on either side of 45 miles per hour. Maybe some areas getting above 50 with that squall line. Just like a thunderstorm squall line in summer, it lasts about 30 to 45 minutes in and out. And then maybe some light effect snow showers for our northern areas here on Tuesday. This system here that I listed on Friday here for the end of the week is not looking like it's going to happen now, and will remain dry the rest of the work week, it looks like. Now, as far as the longer range, so this is the November as a whole. We have what everybody cares about here are temperatures, precipitation, and snowfall, and looks like the November is definitely going to finish above average. So we had that very, very warm stretch here. So we were talking in this Weather Weeklies video last week. We were in the middle of that, and we had plenty of temperatures in the 70s, very warm temperatures that skewed the mean a little bit. So even with the cooler periods coming for the rest of the month, I do expect that we're going to settle. And when the dust settles at the end of the month, we'll end up in the +2 to +4 range, whereas right now we're kind of like +5, +6, +7. Okay, so it's going to lower a little bit, and it's going to average out, but it still ends up slightly above average this month, with near to slightly below average precipitation. That is maintained from last week. We do have below average snowfall for this month, but I'll show you what that means in a minute. And then as we get into December, we are slightly above average, not quite as warm though, slightly above average as a mean. But again, you're going to have some ups and downs there. That's going to have, sometimes you're going to have slightly below average temperature, sometimes you're going to have slightly above, and it's going to average out at the end of the month to +1 to +3. We think with near average precipitation and near average snowfall. What does snowfall mean? Well, we looked at this in the last video too. This is what we can see at our major climo stations across the region. And there's some in between. If your town is in between here, which most likely it is, you're going to have, you just pick the one that's going to be closest to you to get the general idea of what the normal snowfall is for each month. So November snow isn't that much. So if you're below average from this, that means you're probably getting nothing, okay, or very little. All right. You might get some minor accumulations up here in the far interior with some lake effect stuff or things like that. But will you get to 2.9? Probably not. But there's a chance. At least the GFS is suggesting a chance this morning. The morning run of the GFS is showing right around Thanksgiving or the day after having an interior light snow event. So we'll keep an eye on that. That's a little too far away to get anything to talk seriously about. But right now we're kind of getting that time of year where conversations about snowfall are no longer fantasy stuff. All right, so this is the probability of having accumulating snow increases exponentially as you move forward, especially going into December. And you can see that here with our average December snowfall. Now we expect a near average month here in the month of December, and this is what average is. So it's not a ton of snow. Okay, and this is certainly attainable, and I think we'll have to take advantage of those cooler periods that I was talking about with those up and down patterns in order to get that. Here's what I'm talking about with the up and down temperature periods. This is taking a look at Lehigh Valley International Airport, and you can see right now we're ahead of a cold front here, so we got a little bit warmer spike here, then it dips down here early next week, then it goes up again, then down again. See this roller coaster ride? This is going to be something that's going to continue. Oops, jumped ahead there. This is going to be something that's going to continue for, I think, through the end of this year. You're going to have a lot of these ups and down patterns. Just for reference here, though, right now we are right here on the 15th. The 15th, the average high in Allentown is 53. So a little warmer today just because you're ahead of that frontal boundary. Once you get a week from now on the 22nd, the average high is 50. And then once you get to the end of the period here, the 29th, the average high is 47. So you're kind of rated average there. But you see these periods just to see where average is and where we are. There's still sometimes when you go slightly above average here, low to mid 50s isn't exactly really warm, but it's still technically slightly above average for this time period right in here. Okay. And this is right on average right here, but they have some periods that are going to be going below that are found in these ranges right in here. And then, of course, early next week is going to be a below average period too. So you have these ups and downs. They're going to make the average what it is. But I just want to make sure that just because it says slightly above average, it doesn't mean for the entire 30 days we're +1 to +3. It's not what that means at all. Okay. So let's look at the La Nina stuff. This is a recap of last week. We have a moderate La Nina incoming here, projected by just about every single model. We're kind of just right in this range where it has right now. We're somewhere between -1 and -1.5 ONI, which is a measure of the sea surface temperatures out here in the equatorial eastern Pacific. This is the areas we're concerned about. More specifically, area 3.4, which is right in here, which really affects our area specifically. But there cooler average sea surface temperature in this area, which gives you the La Nina. If it was orange and red down in these areas, would be an El Nino. We certainly don't have that this year, so we have a La Nina pattern. We know that. This is what a paintbrush La Nina looks like. I call this a paintbrush because this is going to be variables, and it even says variable polar jet stream up here. There's going to be times here, depending on what the ridge does here in the Gulf of Alaska, western U.S., there's going to be times that this ridge is going to be a little higher, it's going to be a little more amplified, and you're going to get a deeper trough like this instead. Which is going to give you, obviously, cooler air in our region, and those are those cool shots I'm talking about. So with that variable polar jet stream, you're going to have that. All the times it's going to be more flatter out here, and or you might even have a dip out here where you have this come out here like this, and then it has a Great Lakes track of any storms along that jet stream, and we are on the warmer side of this jet stream, and that gives you the warmer temperature. So it's going to be variable. It's going to be back and forth. A lot of zonal stuff this year, where you don't have a deep amplification. One of the things that can help the ridge out here in the Gulf of Alaska is, in fact, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation. So if you have a stronger ridge out here just south of the Gulf of Alaska, you can pump up the ridge here and get some deep cold here in the United States. This is probably one of the most important teleconnections I think we're going to have this year. If you look at the years that we had, La Nina years in the past that were moderate Ninas that did very well for us, it was basically because the EPO, combination of the EPO and the NAO, which we'll get into later. The NAO is a little bit, that's going to be down the line where we're having those conversations, but the EPO is more of a pattern thing, and will give you some more chances at cold. And as long as you have cold in place, you have a shot of some winter weather. And I don't think some of these outlooks that are showing these paintbrush scenarios here that we're looking at like this, with just warmer and wetter across our region and not expecting much snow, I don't think that's a really good idea. And I spoke about the winter outlooks last week, and how much I despise them and don't think that I think they're a waste of time personally, because there's going to be a lot of variability. And just because you might even have a milder pattern does not necessarily mean you can't get snow, even in an overall milder pattern. Okay, you can still take advantage of these cold shots when they come in and get some snow out of it. So I think that's what we're going to be doing this year. These are moderate La Nina years in the past, and we're looking at a first year La Nina because last year was an El Nino year, and if you look back in the past and look at the years that are first year La Ninas, 70-71 is one of them, and 95-96 was the other. This was a near average snowfall year in 70-71, and we were well above average in 95-96, and that was the year of the blizzard. So there is possibilities here as long as you have other things cooperating to get more than, greater than average snowfall. If somebody had asked me, and I've had plenty of questions about this because, friends, family, whatever, want to know off the record, what do you think this winter's going to do? That's the question I get. What do you think this winter's going to do? And I always tell them that it's going to be more than last year, which isn't saying much because most areas only had like single-digit snowfall. More than last year, but probabilistically speaking, less than average. So somewhere between, if average in your area is 32 inches and we only had 5 last year, you could be anywhere in between that. So I think somewhere in the 20s is probably a good safe bet, but you could have an opportunity if you have, it only takes one storm or 2 storms and, that overperform, and next thing you know, you have above average snowfall. And it doesn't really tell the story for the whole season. So for me to sit here and say exact snowfall amounts for the winter is kind of futile because it's not really a good idea to do that. And that's why we steer away from the winter forecast. Either get somebody really excited and then later disappointed, or expecting less and then getting a lot more, and then either way it doesn't really work out. Very rarely does a winter outlook hit almost 100% on accuracy there, so I think it's a waste of time. I mean, you guys can look at them for water cooler conversations to have at the office. I don't know, whatever, but we're not doing it, okay? We don't have that done publicly or privately. Here's those years broken down. Again, I used this last week here. Slightly above average snowfall occurred in 55, 56, and near average in 70-71, well above average the year of the blizzard in 95-96, and then well below average in 2011-2012. The common theme here, except for 2011-2012, is that everything started off slow, okay? And then once we got into the core winter months, January, February, March, we had some turnaround. And I think you're going to have that again this year. I think 2021 is going to have that, have more snow available to us. But it does not mean that we're not going to have any snow. Again, we have near average snowfall in the month of December. So we can certainly get that. One of the things we're going to be watching very closely, and we have been, is the polar vortex in the stratosphere. What we're looking at is, the strength of that. And there's a very strong vortex right now up in the stratosphere. And they have it continuing to get stronger here over the next couple of weeks. And at the very end of this period here, you start to see the mean's going up, and then all of a sudden it starts going to down a little bit right there, okay? So the CFS, which goes a little bit further than this only goes to 35 days in the future. CFS will go a lot further than that through the end of December, and it actually shows, if you extended this a little bit, it has a strong, and then it starts dying off and it starts going down like this when you get out here to the end of December here. So if it does weaken then, we could have a better opportunity here in January, February, March down the line. But this is something we're going to be paying attention to. As long as this is strong, it keeps everything generally favoring on the milder side of average. And if you look at our long-range chart that I showed you at the beginning of the video and on our long-range page, it is stronger, or it is warmer than average both this month and next month. But again, you're going to have those cold shots come in there. And during those cold shots, you're going to have the opportunity for snow. Okay, and here is a look at the GFS Ensemble. So this is the extended version. This is a mean snowfall between now and December 18th. And it shows at least some snow here. It doesn't have to be a lot of snow. I showed you on that chart there for the snowfall charts, the average snowfall for each location. And there's not a ton of snow. It does pick up several inches of snow, but it's not, it's not over the top. It's not like we're expecting in December. We're expecting, a foot of snow. Can that happen? Sure, if it's timed right. But this is what the Ensemble mean is suggesting, that between now and the 18th of December, cumulative, you'll have the opportunity for at least some snow across the region. Euro Weeklies, it goes a little bit further to the 27th, also has that, a little bit higher because it's extending out for a further range. And keep in mind, this is an Ensemble mean. This is blending together 50 members of the Ensemble mean together to come up with these numbers. So this does not mean that in Harrisburg you're getting 4.6 inches during this stretch. It could be higher than that. It could be lower than that. All right, but this is the average of those 50 members and what is producing. And the same thing with the GFS, not as many members here, but it's the same general idea going through the 18th. So the idea is there that there is going to be snow opportunities, even though we have slightly above average listed for the month of December. You have to take advantage of those colder opportunities when they come in. Any storms coming into that can give you some snow. It might be a little sloppy, meaning starting off with snow, changing, transitioning to something else, sleet, freezing, rain, that kind of thing. But the temperatures are steadily coming down over the next several weeks, and normal highs are dropping. So it's going to become easier with time to get snow events, even in marginal situations. Okay, so we'll have the opportunity for snowfall here in the month of December. Might even have something at the end of this month, right around Thanksgiving, if the GFS is correct. We'll see. I don't trust the GFS forecast when they get that far out in range, but there's at least a signal there. Not necessarily a storm signal we're going to list in our outlook yet, but it's something to pay attention to over the next couple of weeks. So to summarize here, again, I want to stay between 15 and 20 minutes here. Summarize, the temperatures will be on a roller coaster ride for some time, and likely through the end of 2020, right through the end of December. I think we're going to have this up and down pattern that I showed you with that. It's going to be a little warmer than average for a couple days. Then you get a cold shot come in for a couple days, and it's going to be back and forth, back and forth. Nothing really settling in. And there's going to be some transient shots of both. And I think you're going to continue that through the end of 2020. A moderate La Nina pattern is expected through the winter months, but uncertainty still exists with the 2021 portion of winter and how that PV responds. If it stays stronger longer, it's going to delay any sustained cold that we can possibly get into the region. EPO is going to become very important once we get down the road as well with that. But that is all driven by the stratospheric polar vortex. So all that is intertwined. Everything works together. So we have a weaker vortex, and it's easily displaced or split. We have the opportunity for at least some cold more consistently. But we'll get down the road. That's a down the road thing here. But just keep that in the back of your mind. Some uncertainties exist right now. It is basically revolves around the polar vortex and how it responds. Our biggest takeaway this week, last week it was pay no attention to winter outlooks. This week is going to be that even in a marginal temperature pattern, snow can occur during cooler periods. I think we're going to see that in December, at least for the interior, and we'll have the opportunity for some snow, some accumulating snow. It might be just minor and some things that add up, maybe several occurrences of like a 1 to 3 in snowfall that add up to average, but we could have some snow here during the month of December, and it just doesn't look like we have any big storms on the horizon just yet, but it does look like there is going to be the opportunity for that going forward, just depending on that polar vortex and how it responds throughout the winter. That's the edition of the Weather Weeklies for this week, Sunday, November 15th. Join us again next week, and we'll expand on these colder periods. Hopefully, by then, we're talking about maybe some snow signals down in across the region, even if it's just for the interior. But we're going to get into those storm signals a little bit better once they start showing themselves in the long range. Take care.